Many Americans apparently drinking their way through quarantine.
The pandemic has triggered more people to drink.
The pandemic has put all of us under stress.
We've reported studies showing binge drinking started soaring about this time last year.
But some hoping to cope with the stress with more alcohol than usual.
It's easy to chuckle about that, but it's not funny.
Lockdown, staying at home, and boredom and isolation making for a destructive combination.
No amount of alcohol is good for your overall health, not even that cheeky glass of red wine you might be holding as we speak.
Okay. What is going on YouTube? As you can tell from the title and the thumbnail of this video, it's a little different from my golf stuff that you're typically used to. So about a year, almost 2 years ago now, coming up to this April, will be the first video that I posted on my YouTube channel, which was the truth about my alcoholism. And this video is kind of like what's been going on, what has happened, where am I at now kind of thing. So like the truth about alcohol part 2, I guess you can say. If you like this kind of stuff, comment. If you like to hear more about these kind of stories, about the stuff that I go through and like what's going on with my alcoholism, comment below. I'm an open book. I love to answer stuff. If you don't feel comfortable commenting, themulligangolfer@gmail.com is where you can direct message me if you want to talk to me about something that you don't want to feel comfortable putting out there in the public. But this is more of like a what's been going on kind of thing, especially with the pandemic. Still kind of in the pandemic a little bit. How have things been going? So about 3 years ago, I started my recovery journey in alcoholism. I ended up in the ER after severely being completely intoxicated at about a 0.44 blood alcohol level. That story kind of started off my recovery journey. I ended up in ER, ended up at Cherry Hill right after ER for 4 days, and then started my program at Kaiser at CDRP here in Oakland, California. That started my recovery process. Like that's when I really knew that this was a serious problem. I needed help and I needed continuous help. And just to cut it, if you want to watch that video, click here. Here's the first video if you're going to want to kind of catch up to what this story is going to be about. But that was 3 years ago. So that kind of started my recovery process. Hitting kind of rock bottom at that point 3 years ago is when I knew that like my alcoholism was something serious and I needed to do this every day. So when the pandemic hit, I ended up starting to work from home March of 2020, I believe. And that was like a lot of back and forth. We're going to try this, we're going to do that. And here we are now still working from home almost 2 years later. So when the pandemic hit, I didn't realize that my alcoholism and my recovery were not prepared for what was going to happen. And I'll get to that in a second, like how it led to that and everything. So the pandemic hit, everything shut down, even our AA stuff, everything moved to Zoom. So it was then like in that first beginning period of working from home, doing AA from home, doing everything from home, I got this comfort level. I was like, oh yes, this is cool. At first it was because in the initial jump, I ended up helping a lot of like the East Bay orgs set up Zoom because this digital thing isn't really a part of AA. AA is meant for book, pencil to paper, face to face kind of. That's what recovery is. And so when that was all going on in the first beginning part of it, I was really excited because I was like in service helping people like how to use Zoom, teaching them how to download the app, how to log in, created like a presentation where it guides a lot of these meetings through. And so it was kind of another pink cloud, so to say, which I hate that term. I'm growing to not like it. It was cool in the beginning part, but that could be a very double-edged sword statement. It was cool at first because I was helping, I was involved, I was doing service, I was keeping myself busy, aside from like knowing that I'm going to be at home, And about 8 months into working from home, AAing from home, that's when my spiritual side of like my sobriety really started to kind of fade off. And it was now, and looking back at it, I know what being a dry drunk and white knuckling it is. And I really know the true term of being a dry drunk because after that first relapse, that's really what was happening. So in September of 2020, we were out in Tahoe with my wife's side of the family and a couple friends and stuff, and I relapsed. And I think the thought process was already there. In the rooms, they often say you will think about the relapse and already plan it before you even pick up the drink, and that's pretty much the case that happened. At that point, I was really shadowed in meetings. I was turning video off. I was treating my AA program like work, right? Only kind of being visible when I needed to be there. And so that first relapse was in September, and it's been kind of really much off and on. I barely was able to get like a month under my belt before then I would go and go curiosity drink again. And that's been pretty much going on since my birthday of November. When I stopped, I got the help, I jumped back to my doctor and told him that I was slowly starting to drink every day again, and it was. And my body was getting addicted just like it was 3 years ago. I caught myself on my birthday, was my last day that I've drank. So I'm coming up to my 30 days here, filming this, coming up to my first 30 days after almost like a year of just going off and on. And that's a lot of my spiritual sobriety was just kind of gone. Even though I was drinking, it wasn't as heavily up until this last month as it used to be in my prior, like my active drinking, you know? So I decided I couldn't do it anymore. I was becoming so dependent on it. Those little small stupid lies, the little trips going here and there, the constant like future thinking about getting to like, okay, if I'm going here, should I drink now? And then it was that thought process, and it was slowly coming back. Like they tell you, you pick right back up where you left off when you started drinking. There's no social drinking for an alcoholic. It's 0 or 1,000. There's no gray area when it comes to this whole thing of alcoholism with me. And so that day, I ended up making an appointment with my doctor and told him. And I, at that time, I used the factor that there were no in-person meetings. I couldn't physically get out of the house and go do anything. That was all up here, actually. Like they often say, we don't have a drinking problem, we have a thinking problem. And so that's where the spiritual sobriety stuff starts to really you really have to kind of embrace it. And when you don't, that's when the curiosity starts killing you. You have all this internal dialogue with yourself, and your brain will always tell you that it's okay to do it, or to try to do it, or let's tempt it to do it. And it's kind of how I was living from September up until, now over a year almost, and I thought it was, and my brain thought it was the natural way to live. It's not a way to live. These last 30 days have kind of got me back into like where I was before the pandemic hit in my recovery. I got a new sponsor now who it kind of embodies what I want to do with my next step in this phase of like recovery. We have very similar stories. We have very similar drinking habits. We have very similar lying patterns. And I'm not going to say any names, but he's definitely somebody that I want to be like when I get to my stage of recovery where he's at. Family guy, working full time, being able to be there. And I think making those small steps to getting to where I'm at now, even though it's only been 30 days, the education of my recovery is there. I just lost the ability to use any of my tools that I needed, mainly being the AA program. And so now I've jumped in kind of head first, started to go back into in-person meetings, being as safe as I can, wearing a mask, keeping distance. Most of the meetings that I'm going to in person right now are outdoors still. With everything going on with COVID right now, we haven't really fully got a green light to go in-person meetings like it was before. But, often, as I say in the meetings, it's going to take a while before we get back to like what AA used to be like in the rooms. So you as a person, and that's what I'm learning with my sponsors, my will was not there. I didn't want to stay sober. I didn't want to make the right decisions. I just thought naturally going back to that way was going to solve my problems or just make them disappear for that moment. They did, don't get me wrong, just like alcohol does. But for me, as somebody who's had this much problem with alcohol, that fun feeling, laughter, and like giddy and like forgetfulness part of drinking never comes back to me. The drinking only is like a symptom of just trying to get away from like the withdrawals of alcohol, the anxiety, the thinking process, like I shouldn't be doing this. That's what we do to drink. Well, that's what I do to drink to forget. And so, I don't get buzzed and stuff like that. So this whole learning process, that this curiosity, this fear of missing out, FOMO, as a lot of people call it, not fitting in certain circumstances, has really kind of like feared me from going out. And beforehand, I had a lot more spiritual sobriety. I had a lot more ability to connect with people, and I think just to be honest with people. And so that's what this video is kind of like a takeaway of. For those of you who did watch the first video, that was a good point in my life, because I had really known like what spiritual sobriety and staying sober was. So I had a good balance of both. But as I'm learning, working with my sponsor, I can't blame the pandemic, because the pandemic is just something that's just like a hurdle. They're often telling us in the rooms, this isn't a sprint, this is a marathon, right? So you got to take your time with this kind of stuff. And I'm slowly learning that like the process that you take in this is definitely going to help you get to where you want to go. And that's where this video is. I just wanted to kind of get my honesty out there. Like, a lot of my fears of going back into making friends and doing this and doing that is a part of not fitting in, because drinking was a big thing for me, going out with friends, doing this with people. And I had a good comfort level before the pandemic, but I keep blaming the pandemic, and my sponsor keeps telling me it's your will, it's your decision to do what you need to do, right? Because in life, there's going to be stuff that's going to be much bigger than the pandemic, when it comes to family, things like that come in the future. But I can't turn back to like this kind of living, or this kind of thinking process, even more important. So life's always going to have big hurdles coming at me. It's just about how I get over them, or how I jump over them, or even if I don't make it over, how I get back up and continue on with this race, right? This program has a ton of metaphors, and you're going to see it. So like next month, I'm getting a tattoo done right here, which is a big statement in our program. Is we're not bad people trying to get good, we're sick people trying to get well. That's something I said in my first video too, and it's something that stuck with me when I first got into the AA rooms. I was one of those persons that thought it was a cult at first, I'm not gonna lie, but I built such a like bond and like community of people that know me as a person. They don't know me as an alcoholic. They actually know me. They know I love to play golf. They know I love to travel. They know I love tech stuff. They know I love to do all this kind of computer work and all that, as well as they know how to understand me as an alcoholic, which is the most important thing. So coming up to day 30, I'm just taking it one day at a time. And trying not to get back into that thinking process, because once you get into that like miserable, isolated mode, it's inevitable you're going to drink, because once you get to that kind of like pity and like self guilt and stuff like that, it's hard for you to get out to somebody and be honest. So once you make that like first step and kick that door open, it's much easier to communicate with people, and that's what I'm learning. I'm very outspoken, but I'm very quiet at the same time. It's a weird trait to have, but I love to talk. But when it comes to something about me being honest with myself, I have such a hard time saying something that I need to say. So, we're going to keep this race going. This is something that's going to be a part of me for the rest of my life. I wake up at 5:30 every morning to get ready for my meeting at 6:30 a.m. Shout out to the Breakfast Club, if anybody of you guys are watching this. Beautiful group of people that have helped me tremendously through my recovery period. And again, it's my own duties to get up and get onto the video and get talking and participate and reach out to people. So they constantly remind me every day that it's so easy to slip back into your old ways, and it does not take much for you to go back right to where you were beforehand. So I hope there's somebody out there that gets some value out of this. Even if you don't, shelf it for later. You might come across somebody that some of this information might help, or just even share this video to somebody, or something, that may ask you a question that you don't really know, or you can even just reach out to me. I'm happy to help. So there are a lot of things that we have planned, especially now. I'm gonna just say one thing. Like, obviously a lot of you guys follow me on social media, but this whole up and down of alcoholism should kind of show you how hard it's been for me to keep consistent with the social media, like posting on TikTok, creating YouTube videos. You guys can see like a pattern of up and down, and so that's what a lot of my life feels like, and my decisions. So with everything comes balance. So I'm learning how to balance myself with everything, with YouTube, with working full time, with editing, with, you know, learning new things. I'm in a 3D course. I'm currently redoing my entire portfolio, trying to take the next step into my career too. So this is that conscious effort of just doing one thing at a time. I'm learning in these last 2-3 weeks, I've been consciously making an effort to just do one thing at a time. I had a good member tell me in the program that, you know, we all think that we're good multitaskers, but when you consciously try doing one thing at a time, finish it. If you're going to eat, eat. If you're going to talk to somebody, talk to somebody. If you're going to do a project, do that project. If you're going to do laundry, just do laundry. Don't put YouTube on. Don't put a podcast on. Concentrate on just doing that one thing. And that kind of being present mentality is what I need to kind of work on. And I think my spiritual aspect of my recovery will come back slowly, you know. Progress, not perfection. That's the motto in our rooms. And, you know, I got to continuously keep remembering that, because I'm often in my career very techie. You have one chance to get it right. And sometimes that's how I treat my recovery. But I got to learn that there's a polar opposite to what we need to do in recovery versus what I've done to get to where I'm at education-wise, or even work-wise, or editing-wise, or creating videos, whatever it may be. It's not always gonna relate to it. But if I put my recovery and learn the things that I do need to do there, that stuff helps me get this other stuff done. It makes me get it done better too. Sometimes I have better ideas. Sometimes things come out more clarity-wise. I don't rush things. I get things done in a timely manner. You know, there are a lot of things that it reflects back onto. So I think that spiritual sobriety is what we're going to be concentrating on in these next couple months. So I will be starting back at CDRP, or a virtual program, just because I want to get myself back into a routine of things, being accountable, doing something Monday through Friday with recovery versus just like kind of having to go into meetings myself. But that's the thing. I need to not make it a have-to thing. I need to make it a want-to thing. And that's where I want to kind of get back to. So thank you guys for watching. You know, if you haven't watched the first video, watch the first video. It's pretty good. Kind of is like, this is now the continuation of what happened in that video. So 3 years later, now you're seeing, 2 years later, excuse me, almost, you're seeing what's been going on this end. So like I said, if you have any questions, you know, if you're not comfortable in the comment section to ask, you're always welcome to reach out to me personally, themulligangolfer@gmail.com. And, you know, I'm happy to chat. We have a lot of cool things coming up in this next month with the channel, along with just life. You know, we're moving to a new area. We're getting a new apartment. So we're getting a new car. So there are a lot of positive things that have happened with this recovery journey that I want to continue letting happen. Just building relationships is the #1 thing for me too. So thank you guys for listening. You know, stay sober. Enjoy the holidays. You probably won't see this until it's like close to Christmas time, I think, is when my intention to get this out. But yeah, enjoy. Don't do too much drinking if you are, and if you are going to do it, just do it safe, you know. And peace out, guys. Thank you.